All right, I'm joined this morning by Jonata Loria, the youngest kicker and punter ever to sign with an ELF team and a recent addition to the 2024 CFL Global Draft class. After talking to this man off camera, I am sure you guys will love his story because it is unbelievable until I heard it myself. So, how are you doing this morning, Jonata?
Hi, Sam, and hi, everybody. I'm doing extremely fine, and I'm really happy to be there. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for reaching out. So, as we talked off camera, you kind of got your start in sports in another sport. It wasn't football. Which sport was your first love?
Yeah, so I actually I'm Italian, so I grew up with soccer. Like soccer in Italy is like almost like football in the US. Like you grow up to it, and you almost like it's like natural instinct to thinking about like going professional as a soccer player. And actually like I did this for like almost like 15 years before the covid came in, and I stopped playing, and I had like a little 2 months, as I said earlier. I had 2 months as a almost like semi-pro or pro in the third division at futsal. It's basically 5 on 5. And actually like I met a friend in the covid pandemic that brought me into football, and it was extremely crazy, because I never thought about playing football in Italy. So it was exciting and crazy at the same time for me, because I was saying like, yeah, but I play soccer for my whole life, so it's kind of weird like thinking about playing football. And I just realized that I liked it so much that I kept playing and kept playing. So it felt real. It felt so good.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So, as you just spoke about, you started in soccer. I'm
Yep.
curious, can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like for developmental football leagues at a younger age? I mean, I know soccer is kind of the dominant sport there. So, I mean, like, do schools offer football programs to kids?
Actually, no. Like here, the programs are only for like academic school. Like the school here doesn't have like a program for sports like in the US. Like you cannot join like a high school or college and be like getting like a scholarship because you're really good at sport and get like a sports scholarship. That cannot happen in Italy. And I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say anything because I'm really not sure. But I guess it's all Europe is like this. Like I guess the only country that does that is, I guess, like the UK has like little programs for sports in schools. And so basically it's all academic. There's no sports here in Italy.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, we know that, as I discussed, soccer is the dominant sport in Europe in general, and
Yeah.
I believe you're correct on what you said about this being the norm for Europe in general. But I think it'd be very interesting, in my personal opinion, to see what it would take and what it would ultimately do for football as a whole if we did have these programs at a younger age for kids over in Europe and up in Canada as well, and were more readily available. I believe we might see more international players getting opportunities at a higher level.
Yeah, I do actually believe that, because I'm pretty sure that like soccer in Europe is already a high level. It's like the highest level. Like even though there's the MLS in the US and around the countries and stuff outside of Europe, there's a lot of like high player and high value like leagues. But the soccer in Europe is really high, and I don't even like imagine if like schools has like football or soccer programs here in Europe. It would be like more and more higher, and would be like finding more athletics and more like like highest aspect of the sports. And I guess it would be like a measure update for the programs here.
Absolutely. I'm hoping someday that kind of starts becoming a thing over there because honestly, I think a lot of children that don't get exposed to football at a young age could be incredible football players, and we just don't know yet. But at some point, I believe that will start to be more of a global phenomenon across the world rather than just over here in America, where kids get exposed to football at a very young age. So you spoke about it a little bit before during the 2020 season, that COVID year that kind of threw everybody on their head as far as the world. How did you get involved with playing soccer at such a high level, and how did that ultimately come about and affect your ability to eventually play football?
So I'll be really honest. Like I play, as I said earlier, I play like for like 15 years of soccer, and I came by like reaching like 20, 21 years old, and actually like understanding that it will not be my professional sport in my life. So I just kind of I would say like I didn't lost like motivation, but I lost like kind of the hope of being like going pro, you know. So when this came by, I just realized that I was going to the field and I was going to playing with other people, and I was not enjoying at 100%. I was like there, and I wanted to do like skills. I don't want to. I didn't care if I miss a shot or if I miss a pass, or it was kind of like became like boring. And after that, I just tried to went playing like in the third division of 5-on-5, just to be seeing if there's like changing like the scenario and environment will be like a changing, you know, for me. But unfortunately, like I found out that it wasn't, you know, and I just realized that I had to take like a stop from playing soccer. And actually, like at that time, I was so lucky to be finding my friend that actually like invited me to playing football, because like I started playing football, and after like 2 weeks, the ex as an ex kicker of the NFL, Giorgio Tavecchio, that is Italian, is actually Italian, played for the Oakland Raiders. After like 2 weeks that I was playing football, I met him in Milano, and we actually like trained together for the first time, and we met. And since then, I just realized that I was so close to, you know, like the kicking environment of football, that I was not that much before with soccer, you know. And that's I guess like this is was like the my lucky part, you know, meeting him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not every day you can just come in contact with a former NFL player that happens to play the position you're trying to play. I mean, talk about a small world occurrence there, but and that's awesome. I mean, I'm glad to hear that somebody like him was a huge influence on your ability to make this transition. So, you spoke about your friend that kind of helped you lead into football. How did you ultimately end up signed by, pronounce it for me? Is it the Legnano?
Yes, it's Legnano, but it's good.
Legnano?
Just call
Sorry
them
about that.
frogs. It's good. It's gonna
Okay,
be
the
good.
Frogs,
It's
yeah.
good for them.
So in 2021, how did you end up with the Frogs ultimately? I mean, did they reach out to you, or was it a situation where you reached out to them and got a workout, or?
Oh, actually, as I said, like my friend just brought me in, and I just came by. I had a like a really short training with him, and they just said, "Hey, you are. I already. I always had like a really powerful shot, and I just like put it on in a football pitch, even though I always put it in a soccer pitch." And they just watched that, and they saw some potential, I guess, and they just told me, "Hey, just why didn't you just come play with us?" And I was like in the moment, as I said, like I was in the moment where soccer was kind of boring for me. So I said, why don't I just like try to something new for myself? And maybe is the way that I can get, you know, like something different and something better for me as a player. So that's how it ended up. I just get signed by them, and I play with them for like 3 games before going to Milano.
Interesting, interesting. So, talk to me about how you ended up in Milano. I mean, obviously, you said you played 3 games with the Frogs, and now you end up in Milano. Was that because of Tavecchio, or how exactly did that come about?
So actually, like it was kind of with the help of Giorgio, but at the same time, it was because the Legnano Frogs and Seaman Milano, they had like a almost like a, I don't know how to say, but like they had like a almost like a collaboration where basically like they trade players so they can help each other. Before like that happened before like the Seaman Milano joined the European League of Football. But they basically had this collaboration. So Simon Milano saw my, I guess, my potential and my really like powerful kick, I guess, and they just invited me to play with the under 21 championship before playing with the first division. I'd actually never played in the first division that year with the Milano Seamen. I just played with the under 21, and we ended up playing for them, and I ended up actually like handling the kicking aspect really well, and I liked it so much that I couldn't keep going. You know, I just have to play and kick and kick and kick. I was so excited about it.
Very nice, very nice. So, you ended up sticking with the Seamen in the 2022 season as well. Is that when you finally were promoted to the regular roster, or were you still on the under 21 squad as well?
So actually, like I had like just one season with them. I played with the under 21. It started like at the end of 21, and it ended up like at the start because it was like 3 to 4 months. And in January or in February, I guess, we finished the season. We won the season. We ended up winning the championship. And after that, the European League of Football like released the combine dates, and I just found out the Stuttgart Surge combine, and I just realized myself that I was not like, it sounds cocky, but it's not. I was just realizing that I was kind of feeling like a little bit like too tight in the Italian championship, so I just realized I had to take the chance, you know, and I just took the bus. I just took the bus. I had like 12 hours of bus, and I've enjoyed it. And I just came in Stuttgart, and I just had a combine, and they just like really found something in me, and they really appreciated the fact that I came from all over from Italy to Stuttgart just to be there, you know. And ended up signing with them.
So, you at this point of the combine, you've played football for what? Basically a season or a full season?
Yeah, almost like I guess like, yeah, a season and 3 games. That was like my career at the time, you know, before signing with them.
That's amazing, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. And how long had you been working with Giorgio Tavecchio?
Oh, actually, like I do actually work with him now because like we ended up like right now he's playing with the Seaman Milano, so we don't see each other too much, but we keep like getting in touch. We keep talking, you know, when we can meet, we gonna meet and you know getting some kicks in. But we basically like it's been almost like 2 years that we trained together. We've been together. It's almost like I always said it to him because like it started to be like a mentor and something like that I can like get inspired by, but is ending up like just being like you know like the whole brother, the big brother, and that's how it could be like you know it came to be.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, as you spoke about in 2022, you end up signing with the ELF's Stuttgart Surge, becoming the youngest kicker and punter in league history. How old were you at the time when you signed the contract with the Surge?
So I signed with them. It was like in actually like November or December of 2022. I was no 21. Sorry. So I was 21 actually at the time, and so I actually like you know started like going back and forth for like a couple combines and stuff. So at the time I was actually like 21, and I just realized that it was another guy that was actually like 22 when he signed. It was 21 that he when he was like approaching the game in the European League of Football, but he gets signed in 22, so that's why I kind of became the youngest one. And I actually like felt like really appreciated with my team because you know like realizing that a, a professional team where basically like you don't have experience but you just have like almost like I guess a little bit of talent or something like they you cannot even like realize because you're just playing. You're not even like realizing your potential or something because you're not playing that much years. So I just really like went like really crazy about myself. I really was so excited that I had like the good environment, and I was so happy.
Amazing. Talk to me about what the atmosphere was like that at games for Surge. I mean, were you talking? How many fans were at games? How much support did they give to the team, et cetera, et cetera?
So that's actually the crazy part because I ended up like I started, as I said, we started like I starting like playing football in Italy, where it's like is not that much followed as like in Germany. Like in Germany is like the second most played sports, so it's really followed. Like the GFL, like the German Football League, is up there like since 40 years. Like it's really like a good environment. Everybody knows the football years is really good. And so for me, like coming from Italy, where that has that much history as well, but it's not that much followed because of soccer, I really like it was kind of crazy because there was like 200 to 300 people, I guess, in Italian teams of fans, and I ended up like in Stuttgart, where basically like the stadium was almost full, and there was like 2,000, 3,000 people at every game, and it was kind of like crazy and happy to me. I was really happy about this, and I just even like figured out about this, but I ended up even with getting like a couple kids wanting like getting a picture with me or getting like an autograph, and it was kind of crazy because I didn't even realize at the time, because you're just there and you're happy to be there, and getting like someone that appreciate your job and do what you're doing is really good.
Absolutely. I mean, in my mind, this game is for the kids. So hearing that you're able to kind of make some kids' days, and in return, they made your day because you're kind of at that level at your career. That's awesome to hear. Talk to us about some of the differences between the IFL and the ELF. I mean, I know you talked about the difference in fan attendance, but talk to me about the difference in amenities. I mean, what does the ELF provide that the IFL did not?
So I can say this, like the difference between like the homegrown players is not really like that much, because I could basically say that, I mean, the Italian team, the national team in 2022 won the no 2021, I guess. I can make a mistake though. The national team anyway won the European Championship. So I can guarantee like that Italian players are really good, are really physical, are really like speed, and there's like potential here. So as a grown players, I can tell that the difference is not really that much beside like the speed of the game. But I can say that actually like the European League of Football being like a bigger league than the IFL, getting like some imports that are coming like from NCAA or maybe like from even like from the NFL or the CFL, get that like technique and the higher level that it could not get in the IFL. So that's the measure different. But actually I can tell that the running game, the passing game, and stuff like that. Even like the kicking game. There's a lot of players even in Italy that actually like in, I guess, playing in the GFL and in the ELF, or maybe like getting like some shot in bigger league. So I can tell the difference is not that much, but we'll get there.
Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. So, what led you to ultimately decide to pursue the CFL draft in 2024?
Okay, so like the fact that I know Giorgio, and I kept talking with him, and actually like I had the opportunity to get like contacts, from him and from the people that are like in the environment of kicking. I met a lot of people by the time. I even though met and known by the time Nick Novak, if you know him, okay, and that is like actually like a friend of Giorgio, and actually like he's introducing me to him. So we talk a lot for like a couple, almost like a year almost. we talked a lot, and I talked with him. We had a really talk where basically like he was telling me that you got something, so you got to pursue your dream. Like you're not even just like kicking the ball. You're just like doing something that is actually like a little bit better than most of the players. Like you can get most of it if you keep working on it. So I just did this. Like I just kept working on it. I just kept kicking and tried improving and stuff like this. And at the time, even though I was, like not even sure if I was able to pull it off against people that play in the NFL or in the CFL, because there's a lot of players that play from science like 8 to 10 years, and I started playing like almost like 2 years and a half ago. So I was really curious, and I was really happy to almost like be compared, to people that actually like in had a career that is really long. So I was really excited to say like um not comparing myself to them, because I was really like humbling myself, saying like, oh, you started like 2 years ago, you're gonna get there, but not now, so just relax. But at the same time, I was like realizing that if I can kick almost like them right now, when I get to like 7, 8 years, 10 years of my career, I might can get better. So I just kept going by this.
I like that thought process. So I'm kind of curious, have you caught any USFL or XFL games at all?
I was actually like interested of joining the XFL even this year, but unluckily I had a quick talk with Novak, and he said that the USFL and the XFL actually like don't support the visa players for the first year, at least the XFL. So I might be happy if like next year or like in 2 to 3 years the XFL open up the visa players, so I might can get a shot in the XFL, and I will be so happy and I will be so excited, because I guess is for like the first year of the XFL, it get huge so quick, and it was so crazy because the environment was really crazy. It felt like it's most like the, I don't know, it's crazy to say it, but I felt like the XFL became like the second biggest league in like 2 months, 3 months. It was crazy. It was really crazy.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. The reason I was asking is because Brandon Aubrey, the kicker for the Birmingham Stallions in the USFL, followed a very similar path to you. Actually, his first professional football game was last season with the USFL. Are you nervous at all when you headed into this first game with the ELF, or had that kind of gone away from your time with Milano and Frogs?
Oh yeah, actually, like this is really crazy, because I actually get crazy about people that are like close to me about this. But every time I step on the field, it feels unreal. But the people that are there, the fans, the other players, the other team, it doesn't feel that is there for me. Like I feel like that I'm almost alone on the field. So I really don't get that much nervousness and that much anxiety, of playing, of thinking about like I can miss. I really like get there and stay there, like, and be happy to kick. And even though I always say this since I started playing football, and I always say that even though if I miss, I gotta be happy and be like, relaxed about being able to kick. And even though if I miss, I gotta be, like ready enough to be ready for the next kick. So I cannot like complain that much for that kick that I missed. And that's what actually like I guess that was kept going on myself, and to be able to, even though getting selected for the CFL, that's why actually like if I can tell you, like when I got selected by the CFL, I went playing in California for Nick Novak. And actually like when I get there, I saw that it was like 4 to 5 players that are already playing the NFL. And I was almost like saying like, oh, why am I there? Like how can I get there? How do I get there? There's a lot of players that already got like almost like all the career, like achievement they can ever get. Like they get in the biggest league. So it was kind of crazy. But at the time, I just realized that, all right, I'm there. I can kick like them. I can be almost like them. So I'm just gonna try it, and that's what I ended up like. I ended up like playing and performing in a good way, even though I was against people that play in the NFL.
Interesting, interesting. Talk about, like I said, small world occurrences. I mean, you end up training with Giorgio Tavecchio, and then his connections help you meet Nick Novak, who is now helping you get in the CFL. That is an awesome path to follow so early on in your football career. And honestly, I think it sets you up for success very early on. But I've got a couple more questions for you before we get out of here. When you aren't playing football, I noticed that you do some coaching of like the mental side. Explain to us your services and how potential customers can contact you.
So I actually like trying to create like a services company that is actually like getting in a huge impact in Europe. But I know that is going to take a really, really long time. But at the time, right now, I'm just giving like a little services on the mental game, because I do feel that right now in our generation, we're like basically we're only focused on the outcome without not focusing on the journey. We just like want to get everything right now, right here, and not even caring about how much work we could put in, and we could even get a better outcome about what we are doing. So what my service is actually like pretty simple. Like only thing I'm just like gonna give out to the players and to the people, even though even people that are not even like practicing a real sports, even though they're just like passionate about it. I just feel like that I had to give like a help and a support in the mental part, because I guess like there's a lot of people out there that had a potential and that are really like a good and a perfect like way to get like and gain success about themselves, but they don't even realize it, because like mentally they just feel like, oh, there's already people out there like doing what I'm doing but better than me, so I'm not going to be able to reach it. So that's what gave me in the spot that I am right now, like being able to compare myself to people that are already out there, but being able to almost like chasing them, you know. So that's what kept me going. And I guess I want to give that back to the people and to the young athletes, so they can get to my spot or even better than me. So that's what I'm pursuing.
That makes perfect sense. So my last question for you today is: do you see a future as a football coach yourself, kind of helping to pass along the knowledge and helping kids the way Giorgio helped you?
I actually do. I do see myself in this. So I actually wanted to join. Actually, like I grew up. I grew up in a soccer. I grew up in soccer, and I'm growing up in football right now. And I do believe that when I will reach like my end of my career, I wanted to get like a help, not just even like scouting or helping, and you know like something like that. Almost everybody does now, but I wanted to like be able to help like a lot of kids like me that became like almost like they just came like obsessed, because that's what happened to me. Like I just realized that football was there and I just became obsessed with it. So that's what I wanted to get to other people. There are people out there, as I said, like they really had potential, and I want to be able to reach like, even though being like a coach for a high school or college, where I will be like, I don't know, although I will be like 40 or 50, who knows. I wanted to get there and be able to get some players be obsessed with their sports. You know, like I guess is the main thing that just keep players making plays. You know, like being obsessed with the sports and being able to pull this off and being able to make your life out of the sport.
Absolutely, that's the best part about coaching, in my personal opinion. So before we get out of here, how can potential fans find you on social media? And do you have anyone you want to shout out or say hi to?
Oh, I actually like everybody just can find me on my name and last name, Jonata Loria, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. I have a couple video, and they can actually like reach out, ask, and everything they want. They can even ask everything. Even I'm really hoping to open and help people and actually like getting a good environment around him. So I'm really happy to share even though my story, as I said and as I told you, and I'm really happy to be able to help people. So I'm really hoping everybody can reach out, and I'm really happy to do that.
Absolutely. So once again, sir, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on and teaching us a little bit more about the games that I don't know as much about because I honestly have not done a lot of research on the Italian Football League. So it was awesome to hear your perspective of that. And then also, I wish you the best of luck in your future. Hopefully, we see you drafted next season in the CFL, and we see you start tearing it up in the CFL as well. Nothing but success coming for you in the future, I'm sure. And like I said, I think you're headed to big places and you're going to do great things.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And actually, like I do actually thank you so much for the compliments, because I do feel like that I'm putting so much work. So it's gonna get me somewhere. And I hope like next season I will play in the CFL in a bigger stage and be able to help even more people, because I will be like more in a professional way. So it will be awesome to do that. But even though it will not be happen, because there's a chance that it will not be happen, I will be even happier to keep playing and keep making plays, even though finding a home everywhere else. So we will see. We will see. Actually, hopefully in the CFL it will be the biggest stage for me at the moment. So I will be happy to do so.
I like that perspective. I mean, shoot for the moon and be happy when you land with the stars, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was aiming to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you once again so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on. And I definitely hope we can stay connected and maybe revisit this right after the CFL draft in 2024.
Yeah, I'll be more happy to do so, and I will be happy to join you, even though for like a quick chat in order, in another aspect of the game, I will be able to get my word into it. So thank you so much for having me again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, a man that I've kind of talked to behind the scenes for a while now, Coach Danny Mitchell. Um, his father, being a legendary high school coach, Coach Danny Mitchell started out filling and delivering cups of water to players. These days, he's crafting championship winning offenses and now is kind of the right hand man to Trent Dilfer at University of Alabama, Birmingham. Coach, thank you for so much for joining me this morning. How's your day going so far?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, man. And I was excited. I know when we first contacted, you said, "Hey, anytime after 6 a.m." And I wanted to say 6:01 to get on. That's how excited I was. But I was like, you know what, I'll give them a little time. So it's 6:30 a.m. here in Birmingham. But man, I've been so excited. I've been up for an hour waiting to get to do this. So I appreciate you, brother.
That means a lot to me, Coach. I mean, to hear you're excited about it is awesome because every single person that I have on here, I get excited about. I mean, while I'm doing research, I'm like, man, I can't wait to hear his answer for this or this. So it's awesome to hear that the guy that's on the other side of the camera is excited for once as well. I really appreciate that.
Well, you do an awesome job, man. I can already tell. I mean, I told you I was doing research on what you're doing. I can't wait to see how this keeps growing and what you're doing for the game and what you're doing for so many people. All the different leagues you're covering too. Yeah. So I really mean it. I truly am really grateful to get to be on here, and hopefully someone enjoys a little bit of the stories. I know it's if I'm boring you too, I promise there might you get a tidbit of some different countries and how they play football out of this. So
Oh, very many countries, I might say. But, given your unique story and the way your father was kind of a legend in San Diego football, with more than 500 career victories, I kinda wanted to start way back at the beginning. I mean, given his strong ties to the football world, how did you first begin helping a team?
yeah, so my dad has been coaching high school football and baseball uh, for now. This is his 42nd year here in San Diego. So um, yeah, he started at Coronado High School, which is the little island across the way from downtown San Diego. And then he's now at Christian High, where actually I was, before I went to Vienna, I was the athletic director and head football coach of my alma mater, which was really cool. So I was my dad's boss. So it was awesome. But yeah, I guess where it started, well, I'm an August baby, so I was born in August, August 24th. So that's during football season. So obviously I don't remember this, but my mom and dad tell me this. The very first place they took me from the hospital, I was born in Coronado Hospital, was to my dad's football practice, not home. So I think I was actually, I can literally say I was born into this. So yeah, and then he started when he was coaching at Coronado. I was a little younger when he was at Coronado, but then he went over to Christian. And when he started coaching at Christian, that's when I started wanting to be a water boy, because I love my heroes were the guys playing on the high school team, you know, because they were, to me, those were the best of the best. I didn't know any better, right? Like that's what I got to watch all the time. And actually, one of them is kind of a superstar right now. So I was the water boy for Daniel Jeremiah. I don't know if you know who Daniel is. He's on NFL Network. But Pastor Jeremiah, his dad is the one that runs the school there at Christian. And so Daniel was a quarterback. And I don't know if anyone really knows this, but Daniel was an absolute stud. So he was a real good quarterback in high school. He went on and played at Appalachian State. Um, Gosh, I can't remember what it used to be called, but we would fly out. My very first time when Daniel was playing college football, we flew out to Hawaii to go watch him play against Hawaii, which was awesome. You know, to me, again, I'm watching my childhood hero now play at that level, and then I think now the world of football knows who he is because he's doing all the NFL draft stuff. So that's kind of how it all started there.
That's amazing. I mean, in all the research I've done on you, I never would have found that, I don't think. So that's a really crazy small world of
Yeah,
coincidence, like we were talking
yeah.
off camera. So when did helping your father transition to kind of a playing career for yourself? I can imagine it was always in the back of your mind that you would play football at some point.
Yeah. So I have a little brother as well. I have two brothers. One that's a blood brother, and then one with I just call my brother. His name Patrick, and I'll talk about him a little later because he came over to. So when I got the head coaching job in Germany, I got to sign who I wanted, and so I signed my best friend and my brother. You know, so that's like cool. That was a fun part. I'm going out there with my best friends. But I started playing Pop Warner football. I believe I was, gosh, I might have been 8 years old at Coronado, and my dad was coaching the high school team, and he started helping coach us in Pop Warner. And so that's when I guess my transition started real young, you know, because I was obviously being a water boy, but I was playing Mighty Might football and grew up in that. And then, you know, as I started getting older, you know, when I was in sixth grade, seventh grade, I mean, I stayed as a water boy. I think, man, I think that's my best job, to be honest. I was really good as a water boy. That's the one thing I will have pride in. Because I started being I again was the water boy for Christian, and a guy I'll mention later on too, another quarterback. Again, I go back to these heroes of mine. After Daniel Jeremiah, there was a guy named Joel Allen who was the quarterback at Christian. He has all the passing records there. Well, Joel was the athletic director at the Bishop School. He is what I would say he is my best friend. I mean, I talk to him every single day. If I talk to him, I send him memes all day. You know, so I mean, he's and he was the quarterback, and so I was the water boy for him. And then I started. I obviously when I got into high school, those guys being guys I watched all the time, I kind of fell into playing quarterback, right? Because I wanted to play quarterback because all my heroes played quarterback. I played quarterback all the way through uh, uh, youth football. And, you know, my dad would joke about it. And I'll be completely honest. I started playing quarterback because I didn't want to get hit. So it's a position you don't have to get hit as much at, because even they say, oh, well, you get sacked. Well, I throw the ball. They ain't allowed to hit me. They hit me late. That's illegal. So that's how it all started, man.
That's completely fair. I mean, you could really say that the only two positions other than that get hit less are maybe kicker and punter.
That's right.
So,
And I don't know what foot I kick with. All my friends make fun of me. The ball goes the same distance left and right foot. So that's how bad of a kicker I am.
So given that you just spoke about the fact that you've played quarterback your entire life, you're kind of uniquely qualified to answer this question. Oftentimes we speak about it kind of off camera in our little network media group, but a lot of former quarterbacks seem to end up in the coaching world. And at that point, a lot of backup quarterbacks also. So guys like Cliff Kingsbury, Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, Trent Dilfer, for instance. What is it about being a quarterback that kind of helps you translate to the coaching world so well?
I think you hit it on the head too about being a backup quarterback too. I was a backup quarterback in college, and I think it's the preparation process. It's the exact same that a coach does, and I think playing the position, you have so much autonomy, you have so much control as a quarterback when you're playing the game. I think it naturally becomes I mean, ultimately, if you're going to be really good as a football team, no matter what, I will say this from the championship teams I've been a part of, I've been very lucky, throughout my career to be a part. I think this is actually going into my 18th football season. I know because, back to back, you go from America in fall to Europe in spring, and then they just start to compound on each other. Of those 18, 17 in a row now, we played for a championship. And I would say because those quarterbacks, and they're all different, but when you empower the team, I know this is going to sound a little clinicky and cliche, but it's absolutely true. When you empower the team, the guys that are playing on the field, and they become like the coaches, that's the whole reason the coach is there, right? You're going to put yourself in a successful position. And I think quarterbacks understand that. I remember in high school, in our championship game, my coach in high school, a guy named David Beezer, championship game, I think I called half of it. We ran a lot of check with me systems, which meant like I'd go up at the line and I would make the call. And I remember in the championship, a lot of our calls my senior year were check with me. So I'd go and look, and I'd call the play at the line. And so that's kind of where, for me, I tried to build a system throughout the years and been under incredible coaches that do the same thing. And I would say guys that have been backup quarterbacks, right? And I'll say for myself too, even in college. And, we have elite players that you've mentioned, so many from the NFL, and obviously Coach Dilfer's won a Super Bowl, and, so he's seen it on all sides. He's a sixth pick most incredible human being I've ever been around too. Like, all those accolades are overshadowed by the person he is, the best human being. And I think what you get with the backup quarterback is you're preparing like you're the starter all week. That's what, because you're a play away, but at the same time, you're not on the field. So when you're out on the field, you're holding the exact same role as a coach. You've prepared, you've looked at the process, the process, and now you're watching the game and you're like, I see this in a different way, or I see how I can counteract this, right? And a lot of times backup quarterbacks, I remember even when I was in college, I would be standing next to our head coach, Coach Speckman at the time, and I'm the back and be like, hey, coach, I think this is here, and they would take the suggestion. Why? Because you put in the process, you put in the time. And I think now this is the first time it's actually come to fruition for me that's probably why Coach Speckman even hired me in the first place. So my senior year, he was the Willamette University head football coach. And that December, he took the Menlo College head football coach job, and he called me and he said, hey, do you want to come coach the quarterbacks and run the offense with me? And it probably makes sense, because that was all I was doing. I wanted to coach. That's why I went to Willamette. But, as a backup quarterback, you are working so closely with the coordinator. And Yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer, but I do believe that's why a lot of quarterbacks get into it, because you are a coach on the field. If you do it right, you're a coach on the field.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. Like we spoke about off camera, I'm from Colorado. So just for instance, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning to me always struck me like he had a grasp of the game, like a coach. Like to me, he would have been a perfect offensive coordinator or a head coach at some point in his career. I know that's not really in the cards for him, but it always just made sense that he would eventually be a coach for me because he ran the whole offense. It was like he was calling the plays, like you mentioned. So yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense, especially from a backup perspective, because you're taking those mental reps on the sideline, kind of watching the game, just like you said, like as a coach. So makes perfect sense. So when in your mind did you transition from preparing like a player to preparing for a coaching role?
That's a great question. Okay, my process, I think my path was a little different than, so I can't speak for everyone. I don't think this ties for every person that's done it this way. So out of high school, I was a normal high school kid as far as like as an athlete, and I was preparing like a player. I would say what made it unique. So out of high school, I didn't go to Willamette right away where I went to school, a small school up in Oregon where I played quarterback at. I actually got a baseball scholarship. So I played 2 years of baseball at an NAI school in San Diego called San Diego Christian. And during that time, the reason I chose to go there is it shared the campus at that time. It shared the campus with my high school of Christian. So what the head coach at the time made a deal with me. He said, because I told him like, hey, I love football, and here I'll tie it all together. So my senior year, I love football. I absolutely loved it. But I was also, soaking wet. I was about a $160 and and about 5'11", 6 foot. So not very many guys in college football are looking for that guy at quarterback. But I'd been recruited because we were even good, but also, if I would have got hit in college football, I'd probably broken in half. So my dad was like, hey, if you want to play college football first, you need to get bigger, faster, stronger. Baseball, as I was saying, my dad, that's where he's now close to 600 wins in baseball. He's one of the top baseball coaches in the state of California, and I think he would say the same thing. He's had phenomenal players, and I know he does it. That's why I coach football, is because it's fun, and that's what he's always told me is enjoy your life. And my parents been so blessed. I always joke like I chose my parents right. I got to, I've been so blessed with great supportive parents, and so to go off of what I was saying with that preparation process, I knew I wanted to go to San Diego Christian because they allowed me to coach football in the fall. So in the fall, I was coaching our JV football team, working with the varsity football team. I'm 18 years old, and calling the offense for our JV team, working alongside my old coach, the varsity coordinator. And then I did that for 2 years at San Diego Christian, while at the same time, I was traveling all over the country with a guy named Tom Martinez. So I was talking about my senior year being why I love football so much. I worked alongside a guy named Tom Martinez. So like I brought his name up earlier. Tom Martinez is known being Tom Brady's coach. And so, as a 16, 17-year-old kid, when you go out to a camp, and there was only 12 of us out there at that time. I didn't know. I'd been going around back. I'm 34. So back in high school, I was a graduate of 2007. There weren't these mega elite 11 camps or any of that. There weren't these camps that or quarterback trainers. They didn't exist back then. Like they had these mega quarterback camps that you'd go to. And so I wanted to actually get better. Right. So I was my parents were sending me around, but there were like 300 kids at each one of those camps, and you throw like 4 balls and you never learn anything. And I was like, man, we're wasting money, Mom and Dad. Like I'm not getting anything out of this. And I told my grandpa, and my grandpa was like, well, a buddy of mine that I played with, my grandpa was an All-American at San Jose State and was a really good football player. I was told, right? It makes sense. He had no teeth. So probably hitting people in his face. He was a linebacker. And And so he's like, hey, my buddy runs a quarterback thing up here. Not telling me that it's Tom Martinez. I didn't know who Tom was, but I show up at the first day at College of San Mateo, walk out there. There's 12 of us, a couple high school kids, a couple college guys. One of the college guys being a quarterback at Kent State at the time, named Julian Edelman. So he was out there. And then Tom Brady. Tom Brady had won 3 Super Bowls at that time already. And I'm playing catch with him. Like, you know, as a 16, 17-year-old kid, I got a picture of that. And that will, you know, I think everyone has, that was a huge inspirational moment for me. Like, dude, I'm spending 2 days here with Tom Brady, and my partner playing catch is with him, and he's a Super Bowl champion. Like, and I'm going to be a senior in high school. And I fell in love with, not, you know, that's one thing that attached to it, but I fell in love with the way that Coach Martinez taught. And I know it sounds cliche again, but what Coach Martinez would always say would be, if I don't have a purpose and reason why we're doing something, we're not going to do it. And the best player in the world is standing right there, and he's learning the same way. I'm watching his process, and he's standing here next to this little skinny Filipino kid and learn. That's me, you know. He's learning the exact same things as me, as he's already won 3 Super Bowls, you know. So there are so many dynamics to show that, man, like, I want to coach. You know why? Because it was really Coach Martinez that made me want to coach. And so, sorry again, Sam, I know I've given a long-winded answer here, but my process started thinking like a coach, wanting to be a coach probably at that time, but then learning to be a coach during my baseball career at San Christian, while I was coaching the JV football team and coaching our quarterbacks on the varsity. And then that's what kind of inspired me to go on to play college, because I wanted to play in college. I asked Coach Martinez, I said, hey, I want to do what you're doing. He was the head coach at College of San Mateo for 40 something years. He has probably the record that no one will ever break, and no one ever knows this, but he had 45 straight years of winning seasons, and he coached 3 sports, and that's all 3 sports. So he was the head football coach, the head girls basketball coach, and the head softball coach. All teams, all 3 of them, for 45 straight years, all had winning records and won championship after championship. That's a great coach. That's the best coach, in my opinion, in the entire world. And you know, he doesn't get all the accolades. And I love that Tom Brady's connected, you know, that name's connected to him. I bet there was a Super Bowl. I don't remember which one, because Tom played in 7. He played so many. No, he played more than that. He won.
Man, I think
there's a special in one of the Super Bowls that Tom talks about Coach Martinez and the impact he's had on his life. And you know, that there's another special part, because everyone in the world knows who Tom Brady is. I would say the same way Tom Brady, and I can't speak for Tom himself, but you know, just from the outside, the same effect, that same passion that Tom Brady talks about Coach Martinez, and that same love he probably has, I bet we resonate exactly alike. I feel like I love him exactly the same way. And we have totally different paths. He's obviously Tom Brady. I'm not Tom Brady, obviously, but he treated us the exact same. And that translates to the game, man. That translates to life. And, you know, that's where it started for me. And yeah, sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, you're good.
That's where the process started. And man, I really mean it. I say it every day. I'm so grateful to get to do this every single day. I know this is a gift. I know at some point this game ends. At some point, for a lot of guys playing, it ends real early here in the United States, for sure. You know, out in Europe, you can play till like you're 50. That's really cool. You know, but same thing with coaches. I think a lot of times, especially when you get to this level, when you get to the Division I level, you know, you'll find guys that get into it because it is a business, and you'll see it. And nowadays, you see, you know, you can see what the monetary effect that it does for guys. And you know, if you do that, if you're in it for that, and I know this is going to probably, people will watch this and be like, oh, that's not true, but it is true. If you just do it for that, you ain't going to make it in this business. You're not. You got to really, if you're going to choose coaching for just what coaching can bring you, there's so much better things to do. Like, there really is. Like, get into something else. Like, if you're doing it because you love it, it's going to translate. And the reason why I say that, because there, especially at the college level, where there's a lot of talk about it, because these kids get these NIL deals, and I believe in all that for them. I want them to have the best for themselves and put themselves. That's why you're doing it. You're trying to get these kids to have a great experience. But if you're in it for selfish reasons, and then you start to complain that a kid's in it for selfish reasons, well, there's a reason it correlates. But if you're in it for selfless reasons, and a kid can still benefit and learn selflessness through it, right, through his process the whole time, that's what the game's about. Because it does end for them. A lot of them, it'll end at 22, 23, and very rarely will they have opportunities to go on and play in the next level. And I'm going on a whole nother tangent, but I think that's what's so great about getting to coach, and I absolutely love it. I'm grateful for it every single day, and the only reason I love doing it at this level right now is because the people I get to be around. I've talked about Trent. Our staff's amazing. These guys that are on this team are amazing. I think I've said it before. The guys here at UAB are the exact same as the guys in Vienna. They're the exact same. They might come from completely different backgrounds, but they all are playing the game because they love the game. They love playing with each other. That's the heart of it. They love the game. They love playing with each other. And actually, even if they don't know it, there is still a sense of, oh, this is limited time. And they might not know it yet, but there's something special about that. And if you do that as a coach, if you recognize that too, you're going to realize how freaking fun this game is, man. It's awesome. So sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Like I told you before off camera, feel free to talk as much as you want. This is your story, your time. So I'm just here to ask the questions and then sit back and listen to the stories as far as I'm concerned. So you've coached at the high school, college, and professional levels, and I think you said 21 countries per the article in 18news.com. By the way, if you haven't seen that article, please go check it out. Steve Irvine 04 on Twitter if you want to follow him as well. With all these different experiences, what's been your biggest challenge as a coach so far?
Biggest challenge. I've thought about that. I was thinking about that question for a little bit. I would say the challenges change every year. And the reason why, that's what coaching is. It's learning to adapt. That would be the biggest challenge, in my opinion, because everywhere you go is different, right? Regardless of the level, where you are, right? I think what great coaches do is they adapt to where they're at. And they don't only just adapt to where they're at and like osmosis, they like seep in, right? They actually adapt and they have an impact. So you're adapting, but at the same time, your influence is still directing it. So I think there's a balance of both. It's like counterintuitive, because you want to find a way to assimilate with that group as quickly as possible. But at the same time, as a coach, you're the one that's directing the ship. So you have to have that. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to that. Not only that, I'm not only talking about the culture part. I'm talking about let's make it as black and white as possible here, as the X and O part, right? You have to be able to adapt your system to what you have. I believe that, right? If you're a guy that's like, oh, I throw the ball all the time. Well, great. You can throw the ball all the time. You can say you're the smartest coach in the world. I'm going to give you a quarterback that's never picked up a football in his life. Go ahead. He's your quarterback. Go ahead and throw the ball 60 times. Let's see who's going to win a football game in that. No, you're going to adapt to what that guy's strengths are. You're going to adapt to the guys that you have and their strengths. And now, where does your influence as a coach come from? Your influence comes from not only your knowledge, but I believe there's a balance between knowledge and wisdom. Coach Dilfer got me on this book called 80-20 Principle. I actually think people should read it. It's really good. I listen to all books because I'm still learning to read, so and I think if you have the knowledge and wisdom to realize, okay, this is what I have. These are the tools I have. How can I highlight these tools the best I can? You're going to put yourself in a position to be pretty successful regardless of what the scoreboard says, because you're going to put your guys or your team in a position that they're doing their strengths. So if you get beat, I always say that. I know that's probably a negative mindset of this. If I'm going to get beat, at least let's earn the loss. Let's earn the lose, right? Let's if I'm going to lose, let's make sure we're doing everything we possibly can. Like I'll use a great example. I think I'm a decent basketball player. Yeah, I really do. I think I can shoot a basketball, especially when I'm healthy. If LeBron James was lined up against me, I could do everything. I could have the best day of my life. I feel like I could shoot the ball real well. LeBron James is going to beat me. He's LeBron James. Yeah, but at least I could feel like, you know what? I had all the tools. I did everything I could. They were just better. Well, a lot of times in football, which is different, I use an individual sport, like a one-on-one basketball as an example. But in football, your goal is you have 11 guys on your team on the offensive side, really 22 all the time. Your goal is to how much can I highlight those dudes that have playmaking abilities, but also at the same time, how do you highlight every strength? Because if you do that in football, a lot of times it is a team sport. And no matter what, you could be the greatest quarterback in the world and you don't have an offensive line. I've never seen a great quarterback throw the ball from his back. I've never seen a great receiver, catch a ball if a quarterback can't get the ball to him. I've never seen a great running back get any yards when the offensive line can't block for him, right? Like it all correlates together. So I guess that to me, I know I went on another tangent about what's the challenge. The challenge is figuring out how to adapt. And then the challenge is, okay, once you have adapted, once I've said, okay, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses, how do you make those strengths highlighted over and over and over again as quickly as possible? There is a timeline, right? Like you get the team, there is a week one that actually happens in the season. You have to try to figure that out within week one as quickly as possible. So, yeah, I hope that answers the questions. I think it's different everywhere you are. I'll tell you, for me, the greatest coaching and learning experiences, and I have gotten to coach at the college level. This is my third year at the Division I level. I was at San Jose State for a spring, and then I was at USD, the University of San Diego, who's a FFCS team, which I learned a ton there. I loved it. I'll talk about the coordinator there in a little bit, Tanner Ingstrand, a guy that I've looked up to for a long time. Those were awesome experiences at this level. I'll tell you where I really learned to coach was in Osnabrück, Germany. And it wasn't our pro team, actually. It's working with the youth team, 14 and 15-year-olds that are speaking German only. And you've got to be able to adapt and be able to coach that team on the fly. Coaching at the Bishop School, where we have 30 guys. I don't know if you know how San Diego football works. They do it a little different than anywhere else in the country. So if you're a small school in San Diego and you keep winning, they just keep moving you up. It ain't about school size or any of that. So my last year at Bishop's, when Tyler Buckner was our quarterback, we played the largest school in San Diego, El Camino. So they're the largest school in the county in San Diego, and we have 30 guys on our roster. That's the entire. There ain't no JV or anything. There are 30 of us, and they walk out. Funny story. We showed up to the championship. El Camino shows up with 6 buses because they have 150 kids on their team, large school, right? And they go into the stadium first, and we're the 1 seed. And so we show up in our 1 bus, and we're standing at the gate, and we see El Camino starting to walk out and warm up. And we're standing out there like, dude, are they going to let us in? And so I walk up to the security guard. I was like, hey, can we go in and play? And he's like, oh, yeah, coach, we're just waiting for the rest of your team. And we all look at each other like, this is it. And so we go in. Yeah. So I guess I know I went on a long tangent there, but that's the challenge of coaching, adapting.
100% is. I've heard that from several coaches. In fact, Brad Miller, Philadelphia Stars defensive coordinator, preaches a good coach will get better as the season goes on with his squad because he's learning the players and he's adapting to what they do well. So that was a great tangent to go on, and I might have to clip that and add it to my Stars preview for next week because they don't have an offensive line right now. They can't run the ball in case Cookus can't throw it to anybody. So what you said about an offensive line and a quarterback not throwing from his back, 100% adapt to what they're going on right now. But I have to say I was surprised to see you were hired as a head coach so early on in your career. It was what, I think 3 seasons out of college?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sam. So go ahead.
I was going to say, do you feel you were kind of uniquely prepared for the challenges that being a first-time head coach presents, given your background with your father as a coach, your early entrance into coaching?
Yeah, I think you said it too. I was surprised too. So maybe that's what sometimes getting surprised and caught off guard, you don't have to you don't have to think about it. You just do it, So I'll give that example. So I wasn't hired as the head coach originally at going to Osnabrück. They hired me as the offensive coordinator. And a week before our first game, the GM walks up to me and they liked the whatever I was doing to get the team rolling. And they said, "Hey, by the way, you're going to be the head coach of this team." So I was, and that's why I said, like, hey, I was kind of just thrown into the fire. I had 1 week and like, I'm the head coach. So I was so nervous that first game I threw up. I don't do that. I don't like throw up. I'm not like a person that gets so nervous, but I was so nauseated because I was nervous. I thought about the title. I guess that was the first time. Like, did I feel like I was prepared? Well, probably not actually, because I was nervous, and throwing up. And we came out and won that first game 51-0, and our guys came out and played. And I was also, that team I took over was the year before they really struggled. They had a losing record. They were 4-8, 3-9, one of those. So we went out there, and my whole goal was, and I know it sounds cliche, but I mean it. Like, when we watched them, and I say we because our quarterback, Josh Dean, who's one of my best friends, he was the quarterback at Willamette when I was coaching at Willamette before I went to Germany. So I was the running backs coach there. But Josh is 2 years behind me. So Josh became an All-American at Willamette, had all the passing records. He is unbelievable. We stole him because he would be an incredible player at this level right now. I know he'd walk into our quarterback room and really push our quarterbacks as a player. And so I say we because we watched that, Josh, and then my brother, I signed Pat, and we watched our film. We're like, dude, these guys are massive. Like, look at us. Like, we're big, fast, we're athletic. They just didn't play hard. Like, and that was the harsh reality. Like, they let the results start. You could see it. Like, they were in every game, but then they let the results kind of affect them. So my whole thing when I first got there, and maybe this was, in fact, to answer your question, I think a little bit of the naiveness of not knowing, getting thrown in as the head coach a week before our first game, the naiveness of not what I didn't know, right? So what I mean by that is, when I got there, my whole goal was like, let's just make football fun for these guys. And you saw the talent starting to come out. You saw the success starting to in practice, during training camp. You could see, like, we were all looking at each other. We'd go home and be like, we got a shot, guys. We really do. We don't know, but we didn't know what the other teams in the league look like live. And so, after that first game, you get that first one under your belt, and you win the football game, and you win it pretty handily. And then the following week, we play the team that was really the team that won the league the year before, and they had a stud quarterback. And we went to their place, and the guys had really believed, and it was a battle. I think at half it was 10-3. We ended up winning the game 42-3, and I'll always remember that game too, because we came out. That was like when you're hitting like a roller coaster, right? You just hit the peak, and once we beat those guys, we're like, we're gonna roll. And there it went. And then we went undefeated, got to the national title game, their first one ever, and we won the thing. And yeah, it was that was a cool experience. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. So no, I was not prepared, but I think I had really, really great supporting cast with me to make me feel like I was prepared, because I just shared the embarrassing story of I threw up. So technically, no.
That's completely fair. Let's be honest. Any successful head coach has to have a great supporting cast around him. I mean, you can be the greatest head coach in the world. If your assistant coaches can't hold their water, I'm guessing you're probably going to fail.
Yeah.
But during your tenure with the Tigers, you were nominated as Coach of the Year in that one season, and you led your team to #1 rankings in overall offense and defense. You were undefeated. You won the championship, as you spoke about. Can I ask you what led you back to the U.S. after that season?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we had so much fun with the Tigers. We were actually thinking about coming back to them. At the time, there was a actually, I'm now, it's like I get to go jump in, blast in the past. There was a quarterback at the University of San Diego at that time, kid named Mason Mills. And Mason was one of the top passers at San Diego all time. There's how small the world is. We talked about how small football is. I grew up with Mason. Mason's one of my best friends when I was growing up. Both are from Coronado. He was incredible as a football player. Well, Mason was looking. He was a senior at USD, and I remember he was invited to the Jaguars camp. He played for Winnipeg, I believe, but he was looking to get out to find a way to keep playing. He ended up going and playing in Japan, but we started talking throughout his senior year about him trying to get him out to Europe. And I had told him I had always had aspirations. So this is before I made it. I ever got a chance to. I'd always had aspirations to coach at a higher level, right? To keep climbing the ladder as a younger coach. I'll be completely honest that when I had that success there with our team, my thought was like, oh, I will always admit this. This is actually how it's part of the story, right? This is how I ended up at Bishop's from San Jose State. I wanted to keep climbing the ladder. I was chasing a logo. And I'll be completely open and honest about that, because I went back to the United States to hopefully use that as an opportunity to get at I've never coached at the Division I level, to go somewhere. And I had an opportunity to go on and be an offensive assistant at the University of San Diego. And, that's where I'm from. I got to live at home. I got to be under an incredible staff. I do not regret that one bit. I think that was a huge, huge step for my career. I love those dudes. I still talk to a lot of them today, even the players. But that was what drew me back. I was drawn back because I wanted to chase another logo. And obviously, I'll get into that later when we talk about the Crusaders and the Vikings. I came back to Europe, obviously, for a little bit. And yeah, man, what drew me back was that, to have a chance, the opportunity because at that time I had never coached at Division I level, and I wanted to chase a dream that heck, man, it was worth it. I loved it. And I get to sit here today. I don't think we get to be sitting here talking to this moment if I didn't get to experience those things. So
that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily assumed that I would have gotten that answer, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, I would imagine that your time at next season with San Diego State, like you mentioned, with Tanner Engstrand, who is now the passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions, by the way. The following year, you coached with Al Borges, another offensive legend at that level. And then also we talked about Tom Martinez. I mean, you've had a bunch of influences around you on the offensive side of the ball that have been really the best you could have possibly asked for, quite honestly. What have you taken from these men, and how has it kind of changed you in your approach to the game?
Yeah, you said it. I think that's exactly what has, and I guess to answer that last question too, what you said about like what else brought you back to the same to not staying in Germany. What part of it was to continue to keep learning, to keep on climbing that. I keep saying climbing the ladder, but also to continue learning and be under. And I didn't just go to San Diego because it was San Diego. It was the people. I got to sit down with Tanner, and I'm like, oh man, I get to learn under this dude. And a guy I hadn't mentioned yet that was a real huge influence on me is a guy named Kelly Bills. So Kelly Bills was the offensive coordinator at Willamette when Josh's junior year, Josh's senior year, excuse me, Josh's senior year, Josh Dean's senior year. Kelly was the OC there. He came over from BYU. Then Kelly had coached at Utah State. His last job, he was the offense coordinator at now what's called Utah Tech, but at Dixie State. Kelly's who I fell in love with offensive football under. Like his system was the foundation of where I started really learning football. And then when I got so Kelly was a huge influence. Obviously, Coach Speckman too. There's a lot of these coaches, But I'll go off the names you mentioned too. Tanner, right away, I knew not only a brilliant mind, but a great person. But his preparation process is what I took the most away from. I really thought, under Kelly, I fell in love with football. I loved the way he taught. I loved the way he treated people. There's a reason why he's always successful. And then the other thing I saw with Tanner is I could see another side of it of why Tanner's successful because of his preparation process. And actually, Tanner reminds me so much of our coordinator right now at UAB, a guy named Alex Mortensen. Tanner's preparation process, I learned during that time with him. I learned how to prepare for football games, right? Really prepare, like really understood how a defense is aligning to different sets, to personnels, to what we're doing, really understanding the holistic view of the offense because they were a West Coast system, right? And what the West Coast is having the ability, it's in a very adaptable system. But I guess that to put it in a real short term, it's a very adaptable. A lot of people know the West Coast because Bill Walsh started that, right? And that's the same thing with Coach Borges. That's something I learned from him. Coach Borges, if you look up Al Borges, and I only got to be with him for a spring, but Coach Borges is arguably one of the top offensive coordinators ever in college football. The other guy who's a huge mentor of mine that I stay in touch with a ton of is probably Norm Chow. He's another guy was a great coordinator, and both of them do something very similar. And here's why they're both successful. They have taken, and we said this at the beginning of the show, they have taken what looks like complicated schemes and language and offensive football and made it very simplified, and I think Coach Borges is a great example. I mean, those great Auburn teams, he was the coordinator for. He was the coordinator of the Michigan team when Denard Robinson was there. He's been all over. You name the logo, he probably had it. And I know he worked alongside Bill Walsh too. And then Coach Chow, he had Reggie Bush. Coach Chow was the offense coordinator for those USC teams when everyone now, where USC was really the reigning champs. And he did the same thing. Getting to sit and talk with him and his process of how he used Reggie and how he used Mike Williams and how he used Lindell White and Matt Leinart and all these names. And yes, nowadays we can all be like, oh, well, those are great players. Well, you didn't know them back then. Like nobody knew who they were until they started making plays. Give them some credit too. Coach did a good job putting those guys in great positions to highlight the strengths of who they are. So now everyone knows those guys as household names. And yes, they were incredible athletes, incredible players, but we also can go back and see so many guys. You can throw on high school tapes. I mean, I watched so many highlights of high school players. I'm like, those guys are elite. This guy's awesome. Well, why doesn't everyone know about him? Because there is, you have to be. There are certain paths, certain things. Not everyone is great and successful. At some point, it all has to marry together. They're all great players. Anyone that's like, oh, the NFL, yes, there are elite guys in the NFL. All those. I will tell you, every single guy that plays in the NFL is incredible. Every single one of them. They are the best of the best of the best of the best. There is no such thing as being a bad football player at the NFL level. That's not a real thing. But people look at it and like, well, why is this guy more successful than the other? Well, the other pieces matter too. So, I went on another tangent there. Sorry, Sam. But I hope that answers the question, man.
Hey, no, I think that was a great example. Specifically, if you look at Norm Chow's situation and some of the players you listed, Mike Williams didn't pan out in the NFL. Reggie Bush, you could argue that his career in the NFL would never live up to what he did in college. Matt Leinart, same thing. So there's something to be said about Norm Chow and what he did in college back then. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And congratulations to Norm returning to football. He's now an ELF head coach. So I'm very excited to see what he does this season. So you end up heading back overseas, speaking of the ELF, this time to the Cal State Crusaders, where you would build that offense into a 55-point-a-game juggernaut. How are you able to step into these programs and turn them around so quickly? Is it simply like you spoke about, how you're making offensive philosophy simple for these guys?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I would also say I can't take all credit there. That was a unique situation too, because Carlstadt had always been good. They were really good. I got to take over at the time. Yeah, there was a good coordinator right before me too, a guy named Stephen Parker, another really good coach. He was at New Mexico High. Here's another small tie. He was out in New Mexico Highlands the same year. Our offense coordinator right now, Alex Mortensen, was there. Alex was the receivers coach, I believe, and Coach Parker was the offense coordinator of that team. So he did a great job with those guys. Dan Hawkins was the head coach there too before I got there. So I will credit Dan for setting me up really well with some great players. And, so I think I got the peak of it. So that's what we always say, like, because that team, that team was really, really good. We were really good. And that was a totally different, and why I say, that sounds, they were really good because they had the process up to being really good. So I got to take a product that was really good. And, all I had to do was not screw it up. And the only thing we could do is either, they're going to stay really good, or we can climb it up and be great. And so I think that was part of the ability of us averaging. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't realize, I forgot about that. We averaged 55 points. That was an average. So we scored 70 a lot. We could run the ball, we could throw the ball, and then we played phenomenal defense. So not a bad combination. Our defensive coordinator, Tracy Geary, did an awesome job. I mean, it's really easy to call an offense when the other team's never going to score. Our defense was unbelievable. We won the national championship. We shut out the team in the national championship that we played, and that's rare. That doesn't happen a lot in those leagues out there. And so, and that was a really good football team, the Örebro Black Knights. We played because the year before, Karlstad was in a war with them, 35-34, and that was, I think we shut out Örebro twice that year. That's how good our defense was. And Örebro had a really good, and they were a good football team. And we had a very, very talented group. And then all the other intangibles, like you said, Sam, I think, that team was very tight knit. There was always, it felt like a family. That's why, to me, I really mean that they were like a family. That's why I got engaged out there. I really mean it. Like, that was the other approval I needed to like, if the Crusaders like my wife, then I can drop down on one knee, so that's kind of how it all tied together. So I hope that answers the question. I know I go too long on these tangents, so I'm really trying to condense it down for you, man.
Oh, no, you feel free to talk as long as you want. Like I said, this is your story. I'm just here to listen. So your next stop is the Bishop's High School, the one you've been speaking about throughout this interview, where you were the head coach, and kind of that was where you were the athletic director too, or no? Christian,
no, that was Christian. So I was the offensive coordinator for Bishops. Joel Allen, who I spoke about before, he was the athletic director and head football coach there. And yeah, I'm sorry if I interrupted your question.
No, you're good. You're good.
So what Joel brought me in. So I had, here's the timeline. So I went from University of San Diego, and I told you that's why I said, hey, I was chasing a logo. In reality, as I look back, like, if I was rewind back into 26-year-old Danny Mitchell, I would have been like, hey man, just stick around at USD. But the reality is I took the opportunity to go to San Jose State because I wanted to jump up to the FBS level. I wanted to do that. So I went and took the GA job under Coach Borges, which, again, I think things happen for a reason. That was an incredible experience. I talked about how much Coach Borges, in that very short amount of time, affected me, and being able to learn under him and observe him and the way he approaches. There is zero doubt why he was so good. But what made me go to Bishop, so this is spring of 2016, all I was doing, and this was, I think, the last contract year of that staff, right, at San Jose State. So all I was doing, and I saw it with other guys in the office too at that time, and then I started realizing, like, what am I doing? And here's the reality. I was always looking for the next job. What's the next thing? Oh, what's next? And I don't think that's, and not to knock any other college coaches that do that, because I think you're always trying to better yourself. But for me, from my personal experience, it was like, I called my dad one day. I'm like, what am I doing, Dad? Like, I just keep on looking what's next. I'm not having fun anymore. I'm not enjoying this. And so my plan was actually to stop coaching football. I called my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, could you? So my dad owns his own business. That's what allows him to coach. He does coaching because he loves it. And that's what I said. That's why I said, hey, he's been such an influence about me coaching because I love it, do something I love. And I called him like, Dad, I just want to move home. And is it cool if I just start working for you? And he's like, yeah, think about it. I know yeah, go ahead. Think about that. And so, well, Joel, who's one of my best friends, Joel went to the Bishop School. Joel got hired at 23 years old as the athletic director at the Bishop School. If you look up the Bishop School, you're going to realize real quickly what type of school it is. So it's the #1 academic school in the state of California. It's a pretty ticket price. It's right on the water in La Jolla, California. You can literally pick up a rock and throw it into the Pacific Ocean right there. It's beautiful. Top academic school, one of the best schools out there. It's beautiful. Has all the resources. Well, here's why I say that about Joel, right? He's 23 years old, gets to be the AD there. This is now 10 years later, right? So Joel has been the head coach, AD for 10 years. His team had just lost in the finals of the Division IV level at that time. So he's doing just fine. He doesn't need anybody there. Joel had heard that I was moving back to San Diego, and he's like, hey, Danny, why don't you just come out and hang out and work with our quarterback? I had a relationship with the quarterback before. He's like, why don't you just come out and I'll pay you to just train him a little bit. And I'm like, Joel, I'm really thinking about not being in coaching, but hey, I would love to, I'll come out and hang out with you. And then, so, it went from, hey, Danny, I want you to work with quarterbacks to, hey, Danny, how about you be the offensive coordinator? And this is why I bring this up about Joel. So Joel was the head coach. He was also the offensive coordinator for 10 years. And why I brought up him being 23, right? So that was his first job, his first coaching job. Heck, he had just got married. All the things. It was his job. It was him doing it all, right? And this is why, man, I'll get teared up thinking about it. He turned it over to me at a time where he didn't need me. Like, he doesn't. He just lost in the finals. And why I get teared up about it, because I'll tell you, our very first scrimmage, so we go out, he lets me, I started falling in love with football again, because I'm calling it felt like Germany again. And I brought up about what Bishop's was like. We had 25 guys out there, right? That's the whole entire program. And so I remember when I first took the job, people told me like, oh, you can never win at Bishop's. You can't they got a small school. You can't do any of that there. So we were like, I remember going into the year, they had like the bottom ranking where we're gonna finish because we had moved up because they played in the finals. So we moved up to Division III at the time, which was another bigger school vision during that time for them, right? Again, 25 kids. But I'm having a blast with these kids. I'm loving it. And we come out first scrimmage and and it's just a scrimmage, but we look terrible. So I tried to put in I did what we did at Karlstad, did what we did. I took all the adaptations from all those people, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to try this at the high school level, empowering the quarterback. I talked about that, right? Giving the quarterback a chance to make decisions. And we were terrible that first scrimmage. And instead of it being like, hey, you know what? Oh, panic mode. This is where I think when I said adapting and being patient as a coach, seeing all of it and trusting is huge in coaching. Joel showed that, like, he's like, Danny, I trust your process. I get what you're doing. And so because I started doubting, like, oh, can I do what I did in the pros? Can I do what I did in college at this level? And all of a sudden, when we took that scrimmage, we learned from it, because you could see like all the holes, all the things that the quarterback had just never had that opportunity. A lot of high school quarterbacks don't have the ability to have, at least from my experience, to have full autonomy of the offense. And that's the system I like to build, is giving the quarterback opportunities. And I do it as a joke. I'd say this jokingly, but I'm like, well, if I put it all on them, like, same thing, like the parent in the stand or the fan in the stand, like, hey, why'd you throw that? I'm like, yeah, why did you throw that, man? He could have changed the play. I didn't build it that way. That's on him, man. But it's true, so I wanted to empower him. Well, then it clicked. After we watched the film, you could see it. First game, he comes out, he's ripping it. Anyways, end of the year, we go undefeated. This is fall of 2016. This is actually right before I go to Sweden. So fall of 2016, I'm coaching that team at Bishops. I'm coaching the offense there. We go undefeated. He throws for 5,000 yards. I think he throws 60 touchdowns on 3 interceptions. Best championship game I've ever seen. So we went. This is a cool tie of that fall of 2016 year too. In the championship, we're undefeated. We played the undefeated, my alma mater, Christian High, where I became the AD and head football coach of. We played them in the finals. I'm the offensive coordinator. On the other sideline, my dad is the defensive coordinator. So I got to coach against my dad in the finals the first year. So we're both undefeated. They were the 1 seed. We were the 2 seed. You know, Jeffrey had an amazing day. Jeffrey Jackson was the quarterback. Jeffrey finished that game 30 of 33. I will always remember the stats because 30 of 33, 2 of those throws were throwaways, and 1 of them was a drop. So he technically completed all of his passes. That to me was like, that was the fruition of it. And why I kept bringing up Joel, right? If Joel didn't lead the way he led with me, and what it meant more was he'd been there for freaking 10 years. It's his only job. And he trusted me coming in and saying, hey, go ahead and do it. That game never happens like that. And so I will always look back. Joel is, man, I mean, I look at him like an older brother. Like he means so much to me. And, you know, that was really the start of what really special happened. So I was at Bishop for 4 years. All 4 years we won undefeated and won our conference every year. Went undefeated and won the conference every year in those conferences. You know, that what was really cool. So that fall, right, I coached the team. In spring, I went to Sweden, and I told you this before this. I know the story like jumps so much because I've been so many different places. But so the fall of 2016, I'm in Bishops. Spring of 2017, I go to Sweden because Joel's like, hey, go do that. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I wasn't teaching full time at the time at Bishops. I was popping in every once in a while as a sub and PE teacher. Bishops called me when I was in Sweden, like, hey, are you coming back? Because we want you to do the same role and coach. And I told Joel, and that I told you in at July of that national championship, I was like, hey, I'm planning on coming back. Told Joel, yeah, hey, I made a commitment. I'm going to come back. I'm going to coach that fall of 2017 at Bishops. But, you know, I'm planning on going back. Well, obviously it all changed when I got back there. I started teaching. I meet my wife. I'm like, man, I'm absolutely loving this at Bishops. They pull me on. They bring me on all the time on campus. We go on. That was the first year. Tyler Buckner was a freshman that year. We go undefeated that year. Have an incredible year. Again, we get knocked out. It was, yeah. Bishops was a time in life. I will always I talk about this season being special. That will also be another foundational time. And I'm talking about the team too, but the players were incredible. The coaches, a guy named Shane Walton was our defensive coordinator. Shane was an All-American at Notre Dame, one of my best friends. He was in my wedding. Another great person, like surrounded just by great people. And then there were younger coaches that a lot of people don't know at Bishops, like Cole Simons is an incredible young coach there. Joey Moreno. There's so many of these names that people don't know that added so much value to that place. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I could go on forever about just Bishops.
Oh, you're 100% fine. Like I said, feel free to talk as much as we want. We are going to fast forward a little bit and come up to the 2022 season. You see the shirt that you're wearing. You end up hired by the Vienna Vikings as their offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, working very closely with a man who won a championship just the season before in the FCF, Jackson Erdman. And you end up leading that offense to a championship victory. An especially impressive feat because that was the first year for the Vienna Vikings in the ELF. They had been a storied and very competitive franchise in the Austrian Football League, but made the move up to the ELF and still won a championship. So given the storied history of that league, that team in another league, Did that championship win in the ELF mean anything more to that franchise?
I think it was, I can't speak for every year, right, of the Vikings, because that's such an incredible organization. They've had so many great names come through there. Mark Helfrich was a Vienna Viking. I don't know if a lot of people know that. The head coach of the Oregon Ducks that went to the national championship, he was a Vienna Viking quarterback. So there have been so many great years for Vienna. I would say, as far as the stage, that was the largest for the Vikings. I know from experience for them, right? I would say, I know they went to the Euro Bowl in like 2009, but the stage and the way it happened, I can't speak for every year of the Vikings, but I would say this is why it was special. I think the way it happened, number one, how those clubs used to work, which is different than the ELF. So ELF is the first fully professional league in Europe. How those, like when I was with Osnabrück and Karlstad, those are clubs. So those clubs, a lot of the local players pay to play, to be a part of that, and they pay the American imports, and the better the club is, or the more sponsorship the club has, the more you can bring in imports, or more you can finance the pro team, right? So, but a lot of those clubs, even the Vienna Vikings before, were a team that you pay to be a part of an organization. The Vienna Vikings, there's like 500 members. It goes all the way down, right? That's Karlstad Crusaders. There's like 200, 300 members all the way down. Men's and women's teams, a development team. I brought up the Crusaders. So I would coach the pro team with the Crusaders. And I was there. I would coach the pro team on Saturdays. That's when the pro team would play. And then on Sundays, I played with the men's development team. I would go out and play. There was like 13 of us. It was literally like playing pickup football. It was the coolest thing in the world. So I'm 27 years old. I got to strap it up again, or 28. I got to strap it up, put on a helmet on Sunday morning. You're with the pro. I'll be completely honest. You're with the pro football team and you win on Saturday night. You're going to go celebrate that win. And then I'm waking up Sunday morning and go play football games. A lot of times I'd miss stretching because I'd be like, oh man, I don't know if I can go today. Might have had one or two too many, but then you go out there and you sweat it out and you're fine. So to tie it all together with the Vikings, they were in that same boat. Well, this past year, it was fully professional. So the team was not only, so majority of Vikings, right, that have had the opportunity. Now they're paid to play on the team. But then we had a really good handful of import players, not just Americans, but guys from Scotland, our center. I love Matthew Daltrey. I'm telling you, if there's a guy that's the perfect personality for the face of a league, that's the guy. He's one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. I hope they feature him this year in the ELF. There's so many other guys that came in. Kimi Lanainma, who was our MVP of the league. He's from Finland. He was the MVP in the championship game. So the combination of creating a team, right, from guys from all over the world. Now you're the first, like you said, it's our first year ever doing it. It's our first year in this. No one knows what it's going to be like, right? You just know it's a bigger stage. That they're doing a great job exposing the game, and the level is going to be every week. That's the top level of European football. It's like what the Champions League was out there before in football, but it's every single week. And you're playing the best teams for each one of those. And so to top it all off with the Vikings too, this is why I say I do believe it was one of the more special ones, if not the most special one, is how it happened. So one of the things for us too, which no one really knew about, which was not really, everyone knew about it, it wasn't talked about. We had 28 total injuries. I've never heard of that. Like, we had 28. 14 of those injuries were season enders. So all the way up to the playoffs, we had never had the same starting lineup. The only time where our lineup looked the exact same, I mean, it timed up. Like you said, great teams. I love the quote you said about the other coach that was on there. With really good football teams, they actually should get better throughout the year. We truly won that thing as a team. And the only time we had the same lineup where it started, our starting offense was the same lineup the very next week. It was the playoff game and the championship. That's where our same lineup happened, right? But every other week, every single week in the ELF season, someone went down. We had to change. There was a change up in lineup. And so there was no such thing. Our quote depth chart was not a depth chart. It was a different guy making a play every single week. And arguably how he did it too, which will be different than any other. I don't know what the conference, I can't speak about the conference for Vienna this year, but there was no doubt we were in the best conference last year. I mean, we were in they called it that. Like the joke was we were in the SEC of the ELF, right? We had the defending champion in there. We had Frankfurt, who's a great football team. They were in that conference. The Raiders, who had won the Austrian League before. So the Vienna Vikings had not beaten the Raiders at the Raiders' place, I think, since 2012 or 11 or 13, one of those. So a lot of the guys on the Vikings, that's who we opened with. We opened at Tyrol. And, you know, a lot of guys that the younger players, they had never won there. They'd never seen it. So you would have thought when we beat those guys, that was just as important as winning the championship. Guys were in tears, and you know that was a big springboard for us to get over that hump. We had just lost our best player the week before to a season-ending injury on a fluke tackle in the scrimmage. Like our guy Weston Carr, who's now their top wideout. I mean, Weston, without a doubt, will be one of the best receivers in that league. And we didn't play with him. We didn't have him in that game. So we're now playing the team they had just lost to in the finals the year before, 42-7 or something, right? Got absolutely, we did not play well the year before in that. So there's all these mental blocks, and we go out and beat them, right? Like and then the following week we play the defending champs that are coming to us, our openers against Frankfurt, right? Who the face of the league, and we beat them. And that was like kind of that's where it started for us, right? But the way we beat them, it wasn't like, oh, we had it was the lineup we started with. No, it was, hey, we better figure it out. We better adapt to what we are right now. And it was week to week adapting. And then by the time we got to playoffs, we really played our best football. Like our best football was played in the playoff game and the championship. We never were trailing for a second in all of playoffs, all the way through from the playoff game to championship. We were never behind once. Like we were there. We were ready. We showed we were the best football team. So, man, I will always look back at that one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew I wrote an article before the season highlighting all the American players, and I just looking through just the American players alone, I looked through and I was like, man, this team is looking pretty talented. And then as the season progressed, like you guys just kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. And it was like, man, they're going to be really good. Like I didn't quite expect you guys to be quite that good. And by the end of the season, it was like, well, really, what other team is there? Vienna deserves to win the championship, in my personal opinion. But it was very awesome to watch from the outside looking in, because it was just like, at first you didn't really know what to expect from them coming from the AFL into the ELF. And then it was just like business as usual. Let's get back to winning. And it was really awesome to see.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you doing that. I'll tell you, we can't. Those other football teams were awesome too. They did a great. You know, we had to win some where we really. I mean, it really tested the character of our team. When we were at Barcelona, we were down 3 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter, right? Or 2 touchdowns, one of those. Anyways, we go on 2 90-plus yard drives to win the football game at Barcelona. Sorry, my dog barking in the background. You know, there were so many of those type of games. We had actually, I'll use Barcelona as a great example. Both games that we played Barcelona in the season, we were losing at halftime too. We were down 2 touchdowns the first time. We were down again at a touchdown at halftime at our place. So our team showed some grit too, because they did a great job. I can't discredit those. I mean, heck, I'll tell you, Hamburg was a heck of a football team. They were #1 ranked in everything going into that game. I remember I got asked an interview question like before that championship, like, hey, like, are you guys just happy to be here? And I'm like, well, yeah, you guys listed it off, right? They are #1 in everything. We are actually happy to be here, but we do plan on playing with these guys. We do plan on beating them, right? Now, why I say that with taking away the grain of salt. There's also, we didn't go into that game saying, oh, we're the best team. I will tell you, Hamburg was incredibly talented. If we play them 10 times, that series is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Very well coached, really, really talented. I mean, their front line was unreal. Edabali still looks like he's an NFL player. You know, their back end, their defensive coordinator does a phenomenal job. Their offense did a good job of. I mean, we stopped Tunga, their best player. They couldn't run the ball that day, and so that's why I say take it with a grain of salt. I think we were really good when it mattered, and I would still say that's where I always find it hard to say we were a very good football team. So were they. You know, they earned their way there too. Maybe, you know, if we play the game on a Monday, maybe that Monday that's their day. But you know what I will say about us, the Vikings, we at the end of the year, we figured it out how to turn it on game day. When it was time to turn it on, we turned it on exactly when we needed to. And that championship game is a great example. All of our touchdowns were on third down, every single one. So we scored when we needed to. We made stops when we needed to. We made big plays. We had 0 big plays on first and second down. None of them. Every explosive play was on third down for us on offense or fourth down. We went, I think one of the biggest turning points in that championship, we went for it in the fourth quarter. We went for it on fourth and I will always remember it, 4th and 8. We go for it because we were like, hey, if we can hold the ball for just another 3 minutes, it'll be nearly impossible for them to get 2 scores. We get the first down. I ran 3 run plays. Like I think we got like a yard in the three calls, but wore down the clock. They didn't get the ball till about 3 minutes, 30 something seconds left or something like that. And we knew like it's ball game. It's ours. So sorry again, Sam. That was such a special team, man.
No, you do not need to apologize. I love hearing these stories because honestly, it's like you're kind of reliving it at the moment. So it's awesome to see.
I love it.
So after this amazing season, a man that is best known for that Super Bowl victory we briefly talked about earlier, the Baltimore Ravens, Trent Dilfer, called you about joining him at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, where he had been hired as the head coach. Once again, thank you to that amazing article from 18news.com, that revealed that this was something that had kind of been in the works for a while. How long had you been discussing working with Coach Dilfer prior to agreeing to join him?
Yeah, well, Coach Dilfer and I really connected back in 2020. This was going to COVID. He had actually, so I was about 3 weeks on the job at Christian when I just gotten the head coach and AD job at my alma mater. And I mean, the first thing I think when I'm Googled, that first thing that pops up was an article written that says Danny Mitchell gets his dream job. It was my dream job. I really mean that. Like it was I'm at my alma mater. My wife went there. I went there. My parents worked there. My brother works there. Like I'm there. Like I was set. I was good. And 3 weeks into the job. And this is why I think it all ties together too. I told Coach Dilfer this. He knows this. I blame him for me going to Vienna. Like, and here's why. So 3 weeks into the job, I get a call from this random Bay Area number, and I actually ignore it. I'm like, I don't know who this is, and, you know. And then I listen to the voicemail, and it's Coach Dilfer. It's Trent Dilfer, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Trent Dilfer's calling me, you know. So I call him back, and he's like, hey, Danny, he was looking for an offensive coordinator at the time, so he had heard about me through. You know, we had known of each other for a while. I had some guys that went to the Elite 11, but we known of each other because his defensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator right now at UAB, Sione Taufao is how you say his last name. So there's a lot of vowels in there. I've known Sione. I brought up Coach Martinez before. I've known Sione since the same exact amount of time. I've known Sione exactly half of my life. So since I was 17. Sione is actually like, I don't have an older brother. I'm the oldest of my team. He is actually like an older brother to me. I really mean that. Like he's someone, no matter where I've been in life, what's been happening in life, he's stayed in contact with me all the time. You know, we talk every year. He had been the defensive coordinator with Trent at Lipscomb. He had also done the Elite 11 for a long time with Trent. So there was the initial relationship. And I think that's how Trent, originally heard about me, because I think Sione told him, hey, he's like, hey, my guy has been doing really well in coaching. You really should give him a shot. Think about him as your OC. Well, so how it all ties together, when Trent called, he's like, hey, I'm going to be in Tahoe this weekend. Are you going to be able to make it? He calls me on like a Thursday, and I have this big board meeting. I think this is in that article too. I have this big board meeting going up on the Saturday this weekend, right? And I told you before, Pastor Jeremiah, David Jeremiah. If you Google him, like he's a mega pastor. He's someone you just don't miss meetings with. Like I can't call Pastor Jay and be like, hey, you mind if I reschedule? I'm going to go meet with the Super Bowl champion. Well, he's Pastor Jeremiah. Like he's literally the most televised human being. This is an actual fact. He's the most televised human being on planet Earth. Like he is, because he's in so many different languages through Turning Point, right? Like, so I don't just you don't miss meetings with Pastor. Like, so I called Trent. I'm like, hey, man, this is the coolest thing in the world. Number one, like I was a huge fan. I wore number 8, and I still haven't told him this to this day, but I remember because he wore number 8. Like I played with him on the video game, so I was wearing it because he wore it too. Like I know he was 12 too, but yeah, he was one of my favorite players growing up, man. And when he was with the Buccaneers, I played with him on Madden, literally, like the old Madden, and I told him, hey, Coach, I have this board meeting. Give me an hour. Let me see what I can do. And I'm like sitting there thinking, like, how is this actually going to happen? And inside of you, like as my little kid's coming out of me, I'm like, I got to figure out a way to get up to Trent Dilfer. How do I get out of this meeting? Well, then I get a text from the CEO of Pastor saying, hey, we're going to have to reschedule the meeting. And so I call Trent. I'm like, hey, I'm buying a flight. I want to go. I just want to go out and go and hang out with him. Like, that was honestly the whole reason. I want to meet Trent Dilfer. I get to spend the weekend with him at Tahoe, just me and him. And so we went up there. I went up to his place in Tahoe, his house. I don't even call it a house. His freaking estate, I guess. His hotel. Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was so much fun. We sat there. He had a whiteboard set up, and we spent all day just getting to know each other, talking football, gone on a board. I don't even remember what time it was that we went to bed. Like, I think we even forgot to eat. We like ordered late pizza, and we were just talking ball the whole time. And so, but like really what hit it off was not only just the football part, but just who he was. Every one of the best compliments he's given me, I'll start tearing up thinking about it. He's like, Danny, when I first got here, actually, he's like, Danny, what I realized is we're cut from the same cloth. And like, how much that means, like to hear that from someone you look up to so much. And I see it more every single day. So I get to be, and that's why I talk about being so grateful being here, because, I'm under a person that I get to learn from someone that I truly want to be so much like him. And it's not just the football part, it's the person part. And hopefully I could, that, and then it trickles, right? And you see how the dynamic of the staff all is pulled together. Because I would say that with every single one of our staff members, right? Like Alex Mortensen that will be a huge name in football. I promise you that. I guarantee that he's going to be a huge, huge name. Nick Coleman, our quarterback coach, same thing. Riley Jeffers, Eddie Gordon. There's another one you're going to remember for a long time. Eddie came from Georgia. He's our offensive line coach. He's 28 years old. He's going to be a huge name. And then there's some analysts on this staff that people won't know yet. Jalen Harris will be one of the major personalities in football. I'm telling you this because I'm hoping late, like 10 years later, these clips will come back out and be like, oh yeah, they called it. Luke Godsey, Taylor Dupuis. There's these guys on our staff, Matt Wright. I could keep going on. And I know I'm just listing guys that this is how much this staff has so much impact. And so Trent is that relationship from back in 2020, I think came to fruition. This was our opportunity to get to do that. So it wasn't just that little process of him going to UAB. It was all those years put together. Trent made before this championship game, I had mentioned like, I blame Trent for going out to Europe. Well, ever since that time I spent with him in that weekend, I'd always in the back of my mind, like, oh man, what if I said yes? What if I went to Lipscomb with them and did it? What if? And the opportunity here came. I'm like, let's go do it. Like, I left my dream job to go do a dream life, right? To go and just go to Europe and be with great people. And then Trent made our the day of our championship, I showed the team. Trent made a video for the team, just giving them words of encouragement going into the championship game. And like, that was cool for our Vikings. You pull up the Super Bowl champion, he's wearing his ring, and he gives them just some advice, makes a video for them. It all tied together. And so when he called me, it was a no-brainer, right? It was in an absolute, and there were so many other little factors that had, felt like we knew we made the right, absolutely where we're supposed to be with him. And yeah, that's another whole nother. I know I've kept you on way too long here, bro, but like, that's a whole nother tangent I could go on about Trent. I love that guy so much, and I keep on saying, like, football is like a family, and he feels like an older brother, and I'll tell you, a way older brother, because he calls me old, so he's a way older brother.
Hey, once again, you do not need to apologize whatsoever. It's kind of weird to say, but I got chills when you said that he gave you that compliment. I mean, I could imagine what that felt like for you growing up, literally playing as that guy in the Madden game. I can only imagine. I mean, that would be if I ever got the chance to meet Donovan McNabb. I mean, that's how I became a fan of the Eagles. So I can only imagine. So I've got one last question for you. And I'm very curious to hear from your perspective, because you've done a little bit of everything. And you even said you've had your dream job. So what's your ultimate goal as a coach? I mean, are you hoping to one day be a head coach in the professional ranks again, maybe with the NFL or the USFL, XFL, CFL, something like that? Or are you just thrilled to be where you're at?
I think you just said it, Sam. And that's why I brought it up earlier, to tie all the story together. Early on in my career, if you asked me that same question, I would have told you, like, hey, I want to keep chasing this logo. I want to have this title. Now I truly do feel this, and that I would say my wife, that I've got an incredible person that supports us and gives us the opportunity to do this. Like, I really am, and that's a challenge. I've said that's a challenge, especially more you are at this level, right? Because it's still part of the culture of, like, oh, what's next? What's next? When the reality is, if you want to be really good, you got to be exact. I know this sounds so cliche, but it's true. You got to be exactly where your feet are. And for the first time, I've done this for about now, and I'll be completely honest, like, for about now a year straight, a little longer than a year. Even when I was at Christian, I'll be completely raw here. Like, even when I had my dream job, you always still go on, like, Football Scoop, or you look at, oh, what else could be out there? And I still, part of that was like, like, oh, it's probably the drive of, like, oh, it was why I wanted to probably go coach football all the time. Well, when I was in Europe, which it was a 1-year contract. We didn't know what was going to happen. I told you half our stuff's there because we were planning on going back, and we were ready to sign our next contract and do it. And then this opportunity came out, and like, I never once looked for a job out in Europe. I didn't know. I was just like, man, we're happy to be here. We were planning on being here again. Like, and what we would have done it. Like, and then this thing came up, and I think it all aligns too, because I wasn't looking for a job. And so it made it even more natural, because when I called Chris, and it wasn't like, hey, I'm taking a job. He's like, dude, you gotta do that. Like, that's one you gotta take. And Chris is like, you talk to Coach Kalaikai, like, we have a very eerily similar story. Like, I always keep on using these people as my brothers. I actually think we might be related. We look alike. Like, that we lived in this. It is weird. We were in the same. He was about 10 years before me at Willamette. So we went to the same school. His first job, he was hired by Coach Beckman. My first job was hired by Coach Beckman. We're in the exact same fraternity that we didn't know that we were a part of together. The same one that our football team was a part of. Like, then we lived in the exact same apartment. We didn't even realize that too. Like, all of it's really eerily weird. And then his path to Europe was the same as my, like, it's a weird, there was a weird connection. So my point is, like, oh, this is where I was supposed to be. This is exactly it. how it happens, and then this happens with Trent. So, you know, I will say, I think every coach, you always want. I'll tell. I think this what makes a great coach is you want to be the best you can be, whatever that is, right? Yeah, I could say, hey, man, I would love to be a NFL head coach or a college head coach, but you know what? I've also done that I'm an NFL head coach on Madden every day. I'm pretty dang good with the Chargers. So, I've been the head coach of the University of Hawaii for like 12 years on NCAA. So I've gotten to see, my point is, like, my goal is to really, really, truly enjoy exactly where I'm at, try to take that all in as much as possible, because I have now seen, I think this is the difference between wisdom and knowledge I've talked about. I know the benefits of that. Number one is I'll be happy exactly where I am right now, and I will be very, I also think I'll be able to influence and help us as much because I'll be where I am. At the same time, as I look back, if the other opportunities do come up in the future, all these little moments will have prepared me for that. So whatever that next step is, whether it be a NFL head coach, a college coordinator, heck, a freaking Pee-wee coach, right? Any of that. These moments have set me up for that. And that's why I don't think the title matters. And that's why I said, I wouldn't be coaching. That's why it's different for me now, for what I've learned. I wouldn't be coaching right now if I didn't love it. And we were tested right before we actually took this job. It's crazy how much it means, because right before I had other opportunities to step out of coaching and be like, you know what, let's go. We'll do something else different in life now. We've worked to this. We got an opportunity to do something different. And nothing was pulling at our hearts more than come to Birmingham, Alabama. Instead of move, we still have our house in San Diego, but we could have lived in San Diego, California, been just fine. And, it just didn't feel right. We're like, let's go. Let's just do it. We're going from Vienna, Austria to San Diego to Birmingham, Alabama. And here we are right now. So I actually do mean this. I actually think I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And hopefully, these experiences, Sam, next time we talk to each other about, if I get a great title, great. I hope that title, if that title is the only reason I'm coaching, and you now know me a little longer because I've had to, I'm sorry I kept you on. I know I keep apologizing for it, but I kept you on for an hour and a half here. Hopefully you call me out and you're like, Danny, you aren't the same guy that I talked to before. Or maybe you call me out and saying, hey, Danny, you're doing exactly what you said you would do. And man, I hope it's that conversation the next time we get it. And, I want to coach this game as long as possible, but I'm going to do it because it's fun. And, we get to, there's one other guy I didn't mention that's on our staff. He's our senior advisor to the head coach. His name is Rip Shear. Rip was the tight ends coach for the San Diego Chargers, or let's see, oh man, I'm putting a plug there. Move him back to San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers. He was Trent's quarterback coach with the Browns. Rip is someone I look up to a ton. I've gotten to know him. We share the same office, and he has such an incredible career. And hearing from him, the one thing I take away from being around him is I can tell he loves football. I can tell he loves the people that football has brought him. And so that's what I hope too. I'm looking forward to our day today because, what I get to do today is we're going to our quarterback coach's son's baseball game. I'm so excited for that because, football brought us together like that. And I get to be with Nick and hang out with him. And these guys that I know are going to be giant names in this game also have a very similar approach. And I could spend another hour and a half. I already mentioned him. I could spend another hour and a half talking about Alex Mortensen, Sione, Trent, those guys. That's why it's so important for me to be where my feet are, be great at my role right now. But I will also say I will be extremely prepared for whatever the next role is. And I think a lot of it has to do with experience that I've had before, but really knowing those experiences. You can have, and that's sorry for the last thing. I think that's the balance between knowledge and power. I can know a bunch of crap, but if I don't, or excuse me, knowledge and wisdom, right? That's knowledge and power. What the frick? I'm too much PBS. If I'm wise, I will make sure I take what the good and bad, and when it's a different title, I put myself to make sure I'm serving the other people that are with me in a way that translates to our team and ultimately, hopefully, have the exact same success that on the paper part of it and on the outside that I've gotten to experience for the last 17 seasons straight. So hope that answers the question, Sam.
That answered it beautifully. I was going to ask you if you've relocated the Chargers to San Diego and Madden, but I guess you already answered that question as well.
Yeah, man. We're back home. So.
I love it. I love it. That's a conversation that gets tossed around our News Hub media chat quite often. We got a couple guys from San Diego, and they're like, "Oh man, we need a team so bad. Bring us back the fleet, the Chargers. We'll take whoever."
Yeah, I'm a big Chargers fan. I became even more of a fan this year. That their owners came out to an ELF game when we played the Raiders at home. The Rule family was there. So Nicoletta, I believe she's like the team president or something. The Chargers families, we got to hang out with them for a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I'm okay now that you guys are in Los Angeles, because they're such great people, man. They were awesome to hang out with, and we got to go and drive some those Formula One cars, which was really cool. That was really cool. I mean, that was one of the best experiences too. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people got to say they went and drove a Formula One car with the Chargers owners and Steve Urkel, the guy that plays Steve Urkel for Leo White. Yeah, it was freaking awesome. So, yeah.
Talk about a random group of people to go drive F1 cars.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome. Talk about an experience, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Before we get out of here, is there anyone you want to shout out or say hi to? I know you've kind of shouted out a lot of people, but just to list anybody who we didn't cover.
Yes, you. I really mean that. Like, dude, it means so much for me to be on here and talking with you, man, and what you're doing, and I really think this was such a great opportunity. I can't thank you enough to get to do this, and what you're doing too. I know I'll get romantic about football because hopefully my life does show a little bit about that, how much I love it. So I can't not be. You're also helping expose this game in different ways. That's one of the things I learned about being out in Europe, right? Like, it's about the exposure of the game. They play out. I was on a Zoom yesterday with a bunch of, on Friday, with a bunch of young European players that are looking to play college football. They're elite players, right? But it's about the exposure of the game out there. No one really knows about it. It's young. I compare European football to, I compared the ELF to this. The ELF to me is what the NFL was back in like when it first started. And here's why. But with today's technology, because it's a bunch of guys that the game is still brand new, right? The game's only like 60, 70 years old out there. Whereas we've been playing it, it's part of our culture here. It's in our schools. They don't have sports in schools out in Europe. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you choose to be a part of it. So it's going to keep on growing and growing. And Sam, why I really want to shout you out is what you're doing is helping grow that game. And I really do truly believe this is the best game in the world. And I will say, I do believe I'm one of the few qualified people that can say I've seen it around the world and how much it means and how much this game has connected so many different people, right? I have friends from all over this planet because of this game, not because of anything else. And that's what makes it so special. And so what you're doing and showing, getting to talk with people that have different experiences, like, and being open to doing that, man, and you can spend your Sunday so many different ways. I really owe you for taking an hour and a half of your life and getting to talk about this. So thank you so much. And I really, really look forward to us talking in the future even more, man.
Definitely. I completely agree. I mean, I had a high opinion of you before this conversation, but I have to say, You're a lot funnier than I expected. It was it was a really good conversation.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate that, and I definitely would love to have you back on, probably right after you win another ring.
I hope so, man. I can't wait. My ring is supposed to come in this week. I can't wait. I saw the pictures of them already. Man, they're massive. They're awesome.
Speaking of that ring in the pictures, here it is.
There it is. Let's go. Vikings, baby.
It is beautiful. I love it. I think they're super cool. Probably by the finished product, we'll add the ring reveal to this video somewhere so we can have that in there for you. But Coach, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come speak with us. Thank you so much for all the kind words that you've said. Now I've got chills for a compliment I just got. That was quite awesome. But most of all, good luck at UAB this season, and I'm looking forward to watching as your career continues to progress going forward.
Thank you, Sam. I can't wait to watch this again, too. I'm really excited. So I appreciate you highlighting all those people, too, because they're the reason why I get to do this. So thanks, brother.
Absolutely. Oh, shoot.
This is Trent, and you're watching Shady Sports Network. Tune in, hit that like button.
You might wonder, what do these guys do? Player signing announcements. I never in a million years thought you would actually come on to break this news. So without further ado, go ahead and tell everybody what happened today.
Yeah, man. I just had a workout with the Cincinnati Bengals. Signing me right out.
Without further ado, I'd like to announce that, I'll be taking my talents to Salina Liberty.
This just in. The Major League of Football is reportedly collapsing, unable to pay hotel room bills, with players being kicked out of their rooms and hotel managers asking them to leave voluntarily without issue.
And then we got Lions wide receiver Williams is debuting this week as a starter. That's something to look at as far as the eye test goes. And then another one on the eye test is Mostert might be coming back to Miami. And we can see if he has a role in this offense and see if he can be viable for the next couple weeks coming and help us in the playoffs and possibly towards a championship. That would be very nice because he's sitting on my bench right now.